We are live in 3, 2, 1. CD Logic Podcast Show, episode 17, first movie review with Jeremiah. First movie review since December. Jeremiah, welcome.
Thanks, man. Appreciate you having me.
Jeremiah Settle, quick rundown, is one of Shane's very best of friends. He has a great mind of film. We have seen hundreds of movies together in the theaters, at home, so on. But as you can see, there's no DJ today. That's because you can hear him on the phone. DJ, say hello.
Hi, everybody.
Since the Executive Order 55 here in Virginia, we are honoring that by lowering our number of folks in a small area here. And DJ's back home in Fredericksburg, so we've got him on the phone. But, like I said, movie review, and want to lighten up the mood in this negative time of COVID-19. And we're going to hit it off. Lion King, the original, 1994. So let's get started. DJ, want to start us off?
Yeah, first off, was that an Order 66 joke, or is that the actual order number?
What, did I say Executive Order 66 or 55?
No, you said 55.
I said 55. I'm just curious if that's a real thing. I didn't know that had a number.
We don't need Star Wars jokes right now, DJ. This is Lion King.
Yeah, we don't need Star Wars jokes. This is Lion King time.
All right, hit us off, DJ. So you're the only one that actually watched the movie today. I mean, we've all seen it like 50 times, but as one that just recently watched it today, what are some opening thoughts of such an iconic movie?
Well, considering you told me that we were going to do this review probably like 2 hours ago, I felt like I needed to get my information set. I got a little notepad here. So just to kick it off, I want to start literally at like the opening scene, the whole iconic intro with the music playing, the sunrise coming up, and pretty much I took a note that just says the intro summarizes the entire movie perfectly. It perfectly encapsulates everything that the movie does so well. And those points being the animation is beautiful, absolutely gorgeous. The music immediately catches you, pulls you in. It's epic. And then the scale of those shots at the beginning just shows you everything. It shows you the littlest things crawling on the ground to just this massive scale of the entire African plains. And it just kind of captures those three main points that play over and over and over again in the movie, that are the animation is gorgeous, the music across the board is phenomenal, and the scale of the movie is so large, even though it's just about a handful of lions, really.
I love it, and I think that's an amazing point. I guess I didn't really think about that myself, but prior to the start of the podcast, Jeremiah and I were kind of chatting while we were waiting on Shane to set up and everything, and essentially is like, I think it has one of the most iconic intros, as you said. The song, the feeling, the sunrise. I can't tell you how many times through, your travels and then Shane here, how many jokes of like seeing the sunrise when we're traveling on trips. Don't ask me to do that again.
Everybody's going to love their eardrums bursting this in their headphones just now.
But I think it's one of the most iconic intros, and it's definitely one that, I personally say, not only one of my favorites, but favorite Disney movies ever, and maybe because of that, like you said, it captures the culture, the size, and it's a perfect intro, but especially to the story. So Jeremiah, Shane, thoughts?
Yeah, I actually watched the intro scene on the way here, and like literally everything that DJ said I agree with. Whereas like literally it was like very kind of like while driving, kind of pulled it up real quick. I don't recommend doing that. Don't look at the phone while you drive. But no, it was like right away it like took me back. And like I think that's always a mark of a great film, is that we always say like it stands the test of time, where I really feel like films at that time, even though they were still geared towards kids, they still had themes, and like the amount of passion and effort and artistic ability they put into those films, like it didn't change regardless of whether it was children film or adult, where like it still appeals to any audience and to any age group because how powerful it is. And I feel like that's the difference now between today's films, where it's like now it's like everything is geared to always to a specific audience, specific age group, and something's always compromised in the long run. Yeah.
But yeah, you and I say that all the time. Like, just because a movie is a kid's movie doesn't mean it can't be a good movie.
Exactly.
And that's why some of my most favorite movies are kids movies. I mean, think of Star Wars.
Yep.
Those were intended to be kids movies, but that didn't mean George Lucas was going to sacrifice any of his effort. But in general, the overall feeling and attitude I have towards The Lion King, the reason I love it so much is because I mean, we all know it's a tearjerker. It is an emotional roller coaster, and it's one of the most heartbreaking, but also victoriously shaking plots, probably in movie history, at least in American culture. But the reason it's still so much better, because there are definitely more devastating movies being made now. But the reason this one's so much better is because it's not about the sheer amount of devastation or redemption alone. It's about the themes and the things that they represent. The sort of victory that comes at the end is what makes it all worth it. And, the fact that Simba was not ready for his father to pass. But his father did pass, and that was heartbreaking. And then, that was the moral, essentially, of the story, is the fact that, you realize, especially as a young man or woman, growing up, when it becomes our time to be an adult, we're very tempted to say, no, I don't want that responsibility, and to just slough off like Simba did at first. And that was the thing that really hit me the last time I watched it, was I realized I was kind of in that slump, where it was a lot more convenient to do what I wanted to do, when the whole time, my destiny's bigger than that. I was meant to come back and lead, and, to take on that responsibility. And once Simba does that, it's a great struggle, but he overcomes, and he notices, he obviously realizes later on that that's so much more worth it than taking the easy route. So
I think it's a very powerful, honest story of the human spirit, where it's the storyline is very simple and has the same, what they call it, the hero's journey. I couldn't tell you the definition of it, but essentially there's somebody, the hero has to go through some sort of trial period, where maybe they're kind of in the wilderness, and there's a redemption, there's a redemptive comeback, and where they learn things along the way and become stronger out of it. And even though it's very cookie cutter, it's such a powerful theme, and I feel even though all the cynics might scoff at it, I think every single person desires that to be their own story, is to come back from whatever trials assails them. And that scene particularly where Simba is kind of in that wilderness period, where Mufasa, right? He appears in the sky, and you have forgotten me, and he's you are more than what you have become, you are my son. And just it's so
it's goosebumps.
It's a kids movie, and it's more powerful than any other adult film that I've seen in the past 10 years. It's just, that's why there's a difference between creating a good story where it touches every single human heart versus having a political story to you're trying to convince the audience to have a certain type of thought, instead of just being emotionally honest.
That's never as compelling as just stating a truth.
Right.
What you got to all that, DJ?
I agree with all that, man. I was curious, going back to what you were talking about, Jeremiah, about the hero's journey.
Mm-hmm.
And 20 minutes into the movie, I kind of have an idea about, I wonder when his journey begins, right? Because I had that exact thought watching it. And you stay with young Simba up until nearly 40% into the movie. You're almost at that 36-minute mark, when when Mufasa dies and Scar scares him away. Spoilers. So Simba, the reason the movie works so well is because the movie as a whole is a character development on Simba, right? And it only works because they spend so much time with him at the beginning, developing his character on how he's not that king character yet. He's not ready to lead. And it's not until the 40th minute, or nearly the 40th minute of the movie, when he's finally even pushed onto that journey to become that person. And I felt like that was really interesting, because they spent so much time, not movies today, but lesser movies would have rushed through that beginning phase to kind of get more towards the action and everything like that.
What's
really took time to develop a character that's not yet a leader and doesn't really understand what it means to be a leader.
It's interesting you say that, DJ. I think you nailed it on the head, actually, as in saying it's one of a kind, and lesser films nowadays essentially they don't rush through that first stage. And I actually looked up the 3 steps to the hero's journey, quote unquote, in a film and narrative standpoint. Stage 1 is departure, stage 2 is initiation, and stage 3 is return. Now, I think it's really interesting you said that, because I think for us in the very creative and, we dig deep to the nitty gritty, that departure might be not until that 36-minute mark. When you think about it, because that 36-minute mark, he didn't really depart from the Pride Land as quote unquote until he was scared away by Mufasa, or excuse me, not Mufasa. He lost his father Mufasa, and Scar scared him away. Essentially, he just said run, and he just took off, and you don't see him until Timon and Pumbaa find him later. Spoilers. And I think maybe that's like the stage 1 doesn't really start there. Excuse me. And then, like I said, stage 2 would be the initiation. Now, I'm kind of curious to what y'all's thoughts might be that stage 2 for initiation would be.
I think it takes years. The point in time between when he's a cub and then you remember when they're walking
means
like, across
no
the
worries,
street,
and like they're
singing
shaking their
singing
heads
a
or
song,
whatever.
and you see them all growing up. Well, Simba growing up. It takes years for that to happen.
Oh, the Hakuna Matata where they walk across the log, right? And it's like goes from night to day.
Well, then again, I don't know how fast lions grow, so it could have been a year. Like kind of like dogs, it's like 6 months later they're bigger than me.
They're 5 pounds to 60 depending on the dog.
Yeah. So I mean, it could have been a year, but still, that's a pretty long time between those stages for really nothing to actually happen in his life. But that's really kind of accurate, to real life if you think about it.
Yeah.
So I think that's where the initiation is. When it's after that, when Nala comes back and confronts him. It's like first she's happy to see him, but then she's like, "You coward, come on." And then he's like, "No, come on, please. Like I'm just chill. That's it's all like this is my life now." And she's like, "No, you're a coward." And then he goes and sees his dad, and that's the initiation when he realizes,
So you're looking at more of the deeper picture, not until the initiation.
I mean, yeah, well, that's kind of what the hero's journey is. Like,
right.
I wrote a paper on it, so I'm basically an expert. No, not at all. But that was kind of that's the arc. Is like the hero leaves on this great quest, and then there's something big that happens, like the climax. There's usually a fall. They feel defeated. It feels like the end, but then they learn something, and then that's the beginning of the return. They come back, they kick butt, and then they've learned something. And the hero's journey is not really the end; it's just the end of a segment.
Right.
So Simba's story continues after that, having learned what he learned, whatever. But that's the focus of The Lion King, is just to focus on this one segment of his life because it was the most influential.
What are your thoughts, DJ?
I had something for a second. And then,
was it in relation to initiation or a totally spin-off comment?
I remember what it was. So, one of like the really big messages that I got from rewatching it just now was that the whole part where Simba is in the jungle with Timon and Pumbaa and everything's happy and everything like that, like he's happy, right? More or less, he is happy during that moment. But then when he goes back and he's convinced, and Rafiki gets him and tells him that he has to deal with his past rather than run away from it, and you see the devastation that's come upon the Pride Lands in the time that he's been gone, and it's really telling you that when you have problems, even if you leave them, even if you might be happy, those problems are still there. Like they're still affecting something in the past that's carrying into the future, and he ends up having to deal with it. And he can't just stay in the jungle forever.
Yeah. It's so, like the more I think about it, the more deep I realize and how comparable it is to human life. Because that's how all of us deal with our problems, throughout society of, we're faced with some sort of, whether it's depression or circumstantial things, whatever, it's like we
or
tend
COVID-19.
to, it's like, it's like we tend to, and when he, even though, Timon and Pumbaa, I would consider them good friends, and they went along with him on this journey, it's like, not only do we run away, but we look to something else, a new philosophy where it's no worries. We look to some sort of vice or some sort of carefree type of, I'm just going to delve into just happiness and making myself feel good instead of actually try to face whatever problems are happening or try to work through it, so to speak. And then I feel like every single character in this movie kind of represents a different type of person that we might come across our own life, where you have Mufasa's kind of the perfect picture of a father, the perfect picture of a role model, and Scar is a bad depiction, is like the evil depiction of that. And then you have kind of like the carefree outcasts, like wild friends that come along, like Timon and Pumbaa. And then you kind of have the sage, like wise, like Yoda almost. And what's his name? The monkey guy?
Oh,
Rafiki.
Yeah,
Rafiki.
whatever, Rafiki. But who like comes along and kind of like, and that's how it happens a lot of times. It's like whatever we're going through, there's always someone that comes along and whacks us with a stick almost,
yeah.
you know, in a loving way, and kind of like, you know, changes your mind of like your own philosophies.
Like a wake-up call.
Yeah. But yeah, it's like the more I think about it, the more.
Where does Zazu fall in line of things?
Yeah.
Zazu's your mom.
Just the yes, just the goofy. It's the person that soaks up all the anxiety, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah.
Of it all. Yeah, there is always like a person who's kind of like
need someone
always
worried
worried
about
about
it.
everyone's
Yeah.
condition.
Simba, the elephant graveyard. No.
That was beautiful.
Thanks, dude.
You can't have complete carelessness, but you also can't have, you know, it's like pretty much you have Timon and Pumbaa, and they're great, but they need to be balanced by Zazu,
Right.
Yeah.
so that they can put Simba right in the middle, so that he can be aware of the circumstances.
Zazu is really like a mom now that.
Yeah. No, seriously. He can be aware of the circumstances, but still have, you know, the tenacity and the boldness to actually pursue the mission. So.
I really think I'm gonna watch this when I go home.
No, I
It makes
know,
me
dude,
want to
it's-
watch it.
That's what I'm.
Such a
Just,
good
I mean, we're only
movie.
like what 15, 16 minutes in. We're digging deeper and deeper into this movie that I remember going. I guess backtracking a bit before moving forward is just watching this movie as a kid. I just remember putting the VCR for the first time. You know, I didn't really have much of a sense of life. I think I was maybe barely in school. I was that young, or maybe it was a little while later. And Shane and I were so young, and I remember putting in for the first time. You know. Welcome to Disney VHS or whatever that little thing that comes in. It shows like a couple little previews of like Aristocrats and, you know, Toy Story or whatever whatever the movies were, Alice in Wonderland.
101 Dalmatians.
Exactly, and then it's now for your feature presentation, and then you just kind of wait,
The
and then all you hear is the song, and I don't know, I never would have thought. You know, I guess fast forward almost 20 years forward, and we're digging so deep into something so elementary.
And
like,
even
yeah.
as a child, like I feel like even as a child, you can recognize how like you can't like dissect it or really know
You don't know
what
what
it
it
is,
is.
but like you still feel and know how powerful something is.
It's like, yeah, it's really meaningful.
Right.
And
Like,
that's... Go ahead.
no, I was going to say, like, now that you say that, maybe I always did see Rafiki as, like, I think when I thought as a kid, I could see Rafiki as, like, a grandparent.
Right.
And then Zazu, I think, whoever said mother, that was spot on. What was it? Yeah. I think that's spot on. And then, you know, Mufasa is definitely like that breadwinner, go-getter, you know, but also brave and courageous, calm, collective guy that you want to be as a kid. And then when he dies, you're just like, like what? And then so Simba's all confused, and then you automatically realize that you are Simba. You're like
he lost his lifeline for growth and
Yeah.
nurturement and nourishment. And it's like that's pretty defeating. You know, to feel like your only hope, your dad who was supposed to teach you everything about being king, is gone now. Like, how could I ever hope to be king? So of course he ran away. He was terrified. That's like, it was bad. It was scary enough to try to become king with that instruction. But kind of tracing back to what you said about being a kid and being able to recognize stuff, it's like, that's how you know you're growing. That's like a general success principle. People say, if you read a book, you learn something, you know, but don't throw it away. Go back in a couple years and read it again. Chances are you'll notice things you've never noticed the first time, and it's because you grew.
Mm-hmm.
You took the things you learned the first time and you grew. And it's the same, you know, that's why this movie is so good. You know the value of a movie on the level of the themes and its, you know, true value, not just entertainment, by how long it can continue to inspire or to teach you lessons. Because as a kid, it's, you know, it's inspiring. Yeah, it's sad. That's, you know, most of what you can gather from it. You know it's good, you don't know why. But the older you get, the more you are aware of these things because you experience them.
I think kind of to bounce off your point there, and the more I sit here and think about it, I think the reason why I don't ever feel guilty. I don't feel embarrassed for always going back to rewatch a movie like this, whether it's with Faith and Dylan or cousins or myself. I just don't care because I think it's also the amount of part of just like swallowing your pride, humbling yourself, and be like, hey, not only can I learn something from a quote unquote children's film, but I can learn something from a child if I want to. Because I mean, I talk to coworkers, and y'all probably see it yourselves, or I mean, I learn from kids or younger folks, I guess, compared to me, every single day, at least once or here and there a week. And I think that's what's so cool about just like owning the fact that not only do you enjoy the movie, but you can constantly learn something from it. 20 years later now, where we're sitting, when I was 5 years old, I never thought. Now I'm just like, man, I've learned more about this movie, than I would just like a critically acclaimed film, and that one wins an Oscar. But DJ, what other points you got?
Going off of what you just said about talking about how it's a kids movie and all that, I just wanted to say that like it's not a kid's story.
Yeah,
right.
Right.
Like the story that the Lion King tells is as old as stories go. Like it goes all the way back to Shakespeare and before that, where it's a constant or a similar storyline where it's a prince or someone who's not ready to take their leadership role that gets outed and has to come back and and reclaim the throne that they rightfully deserve through either bloodline or honor or whatever it is. But before that, going back to I think what Jeremiah said about you guys were talking about the different characters being different people in your lives and whatnot.
Right.
I took a note while I was watching it because Scar says something towards the end when Simba's mom, I'm blanking on her name, she can't bring back food and Scar is freaking out and she's saying we have to leave and he goes, no, I'm going to get what I want, right? And that parallels exactly what Simba says at the beginning of the movie. That whole entire song is all about him getting what he wants. So it's very much saying that Scar, maybe not directly, is an adult version of what a child thinks leadership is like.
Wow. Yeah.
You don't, and he doesn't obtain the knowledge of what being a true leader is all about. Like Scar, you said that Scar is the opposite of Mufasa.
Yeah.
And
Right.
it's because Mufasa has developed that knowledge of what a true leader is. I mean, he says countless really, really like character-defining, profound things throughout the beginning part of the movie. He says something along the lines of, I'm only brave when I need to be.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, that one hit me too.
There's so many things that a true leader needs to show
Right.
and have within his utility belt that Scar just doesn't have. Scar is quite literally a child on top of the throne, only concerned with what he wants.
Yeah. What's the mom's name? It's like Ramazi or something,
No, it's Sarabi. So close.
isn't it?
Robbie.
Sarabi, which in Swahili it says means mirage, which I think's pretty interesting. And then of course Mufasa means king, and Simba Simba means
Child, doesn't it? Or no, Simba means lion.
lion. Yeah,
Yeah, Simba means
Interesting.
lion actually in African.
but
What does Zazu mean?
Mom.
mom in
Bird.
Swahili.
Bird.
The name Zazu means movement and is of Hebrew origin.
Interesting.
I guess he keeps people moving. Well, he kind of tries to stop people from moving. But if you think about it.
Simba. I'm
But
sorry.
at the same
Quick
time,
cut to
at the same
Cody's
time-
impression of Zazu.
at the same time, actually, Zazu is such an important character. I realize because without Zazu, Simba and Nala never would have really. I mean, maybe not never, but they would not have wanted to do a lot of the things that they did that drove the story. Out of defiance, it wasn't optimal. It wasn't the best course of action or choice, or reason. But Zazu was a great catalyst.
I think
for their childishness.
No, and it's funny you say that, how like Zazu is very, very significant to the character building, especially helping Simba and Nala grow. But it's weird. Maybe it's just me, but I feel like he's definitely one of the comic relief characters. In addition, and in a way, maybe a little bit more mature way than Timon and Pumbaa. But I feel like it's really interesting to sit here and think that in a lot of other films, maybe more cartoons, but a lot of the comic reliefs are actually some of the biggest lesson teachers, if you will.
Yeah.
They usually feel the most truth, or deep down you might compare yourself to them.
We were just talking about Yoda and like the beginning, the part where Luke first meets Yoda in
The fifth one.
Empire Strikes Back. Yoda's
Oh, yeah.
like
He's
rummaging
the
through his
funniest.
stuff and eating his food, and he's like, no.
Exactly.
Yeah.
no.
See, DJ, I'm not the only one that does voice impressions on here, you know. But
Simon Place.
moving on. DJ, another point? Anyone else got another point?
Got a
Actually,
bunch of points.
Well, I know you took like
I have
10
one.
pages of notes. What you got, Shane?
Off the top of my head, another fantastic lesson. I do actually. I watch Jordan Peterson time to time, and he actually kind of helped me figure this one out because I did notice it, but I couldn't really put my finger on it. He talked about how Nala was the perfect woman, for Simba because, for the most part, men are going to do what selfishly pleases them. They're going to do what's they're most inclined to do, which is eat, sleep, and fulfill their desires. And her being the real woman is not the one who, at least in society today, people think that your best friends are the ones who are like, oh, you go girl, like you do it. I totally support you. But that's so wrong because you're never pushing them to actually become better or to reach what's going to be a better life. You're actually encouraging them to stay exactly where their natural inclination is keeping them. And that's why Nala is such a perfect woman because she drives Simba. She slaps him upside the face and challenges him. And that's also another reflection on. It shows that even though you love Timon and Pumbaa at this point in the movie, when Nala comes up, you realize actually how worthless friends they are because they're keeping Simba where he is, and they want him to stay there because they feel challenged, and that's uncomfortable for them, and it wasn't their idea. So that's a really big one. Especially as you get to the point where you realize, maybe you have some friends that aren't challenging you. Maybe they're there for entertainment. You're there for each other's company, but nothing more. That's a really big one.
Well done. His philosophical point for the night. DJ, Jeremiah, y'all got anything else? Any more points?
You're sadly mistaken if you think Shane's only going to have one philosophical point.
Touche.
Yeah, I mean, just the more we break it open, the more you see how much meaning is in this little children. He nailed it perfectly on the head. Where and I thought about because I think this story is taken from Hamlet or something like that. Where this is not a children's story per se, but it's geared to their audience. But it's just literally you literally have all of life lessons. Encompassed into one small story, which is pretty incredible. Yeah,
that alone is impressive.
Yeah, I just wish we had more films like that.
I agree. I feel like that, like DJ said earlier, lesser films kind of bring that challenging aspect and the easy story to see, but they try to make things so complicated or fit this political agenda in, or or please this person. Yeah,
they try to strategize
exactly.
Oh, this is emotional. We should put this type of arc in here.
Yep.
Instead of just taking, who was it? I think you told me this. It was C.S. Lewis, I think, who said, whenever you try to make a good story or something like that.
Yeah, it's don't ever don't. It's if something is big or if something is beautiful, don't say it's beautiful. Describe how it's beautiful. Or it's something along those lines.
Yeah, and then he goes on to say, stop trying to find the best way to tell the truth. Just tell, or stop trying to find the best way to do something. I don't know what he says, but then he says, more than likely, if you just tell the truth, you'll end up becoming. That's right. Don't try to make a classic. It was 9 times out of 10, if you just tell the truth, it will by default become a classic.
Yeah.
And it's like the concept of cliche. People, rat on it because it's cliche. But why is it cliche? Because it's that big. It's that known. It's known for a reason because it's that big and it's that important.
And I recognize, even just watching some of the Lion King clips on the way here, I recognize that while watching it, I'm it made me think of the newer version, whereas the newer version was just trying so hard to encompass or capture something specific instead of just being. Where I was watching this film and it's like you said, it just speaks for itself. It's the truth. Where a lot of like you said, it takes the time from the beginning for that development period. Whereas so many movies now, they try to really force a certain feeling upon you. Or they try to force some sort of perspective instead of just letting
trying to manipulate.
Just letting the story speak for itself and letting.
I think the sad thing is that's we've almost done that to ourselves as a human race. Because I know me and DJ talk about this all the time with creating YouTube videos or doing research, but look at TikTok, look at Vine. People try to capture your attention in 6 seconds from Vine, and TikTok, what, no more than 60 seconds? People try to capture your attention. So that's why I feel like a lot of these big films, cartoon or Oscar award winning, they try to do that first hero's journey stage by the departure in the first 30 seconds to a minute. Because if they don't hook you, unfortunately, we as a human race have this default, lacking attention span. Which, what's that? Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly, which is, unfortunate. But I think that's a part of maybe this is probably definitely for another podcast, but certain things like video games and VR and a lot of these things that we've self-made have taken away imagination, which maybe that's why Lion King, you can almost put yourself into the shoes of one of those animals, like DJ said earlier. You see the scale of the animals, you see the scale of the layout of the land and the Pride Land. You see like the scale of the rock by the animals at the foot, and like the camera comes up. Like it really sets you in that mood. But then again, you're like, oh my gosh, I want more. So yes, it does do that modern bringing in the first 30 seconds to a minute with the song and the scale and everything. But you immediately are hooked and want more in terms of that's all. There was no actual audio other than music. There was no lesson. There was no meeting the characters. And then actually, like DJ said, it takes a half hour until the whole first stage actually really sets in stone. Whereas if you go watch Rise of Skywalker, like we already did a review of forever ago, and it tries to get your attention in the first 30 seconds by showing Palpatine from the dead and from when he died 30 years ago, and spoiler again. But I think that's what's the unfortunate part, as we keep beating like a dead horse, is it's just so much different. That's what makes this movie so unique.
Yeah, and I like, again, like, it just makes me, I think it's another good parallel of life. It's like we want all the good things right away in our lives. It's like all the things that are worth having, like, usually take a lot of time.
That's why they're worth having.
Exactly.
Because they don't come easy.
And I guess just to be a little bit, put another perspective, is like, Frodo just wanted to get rid of that ring immediately. He was scared of it. He just wanted to throw it in the mountain of...
Don't get me started on Lord of the Rings, man. I'm gonna be here
but,
for another 2 hours.
No, but my point is, he just wanted to throw the ring to the fire and get rid of it. But little did he realize he was going to learn so much about himself within what we saw in 3 movies, but it was a long, long, long journey. He stabbed a couple times, people died, and so on. Sorry, more spoilers, but with that being,
they make it. Put, disclaimer
Cody,
on this.
Cody, at the beginning of the video, on the video title, just put spoiler for all cinema in history.
Star Wars, Lord of the Rings, all the others. But, well, in closing, that was a good half-hour review. I mean, this is definitely the first of many, and I've had a lot of fun, even though it was just like we kind of just pulled this movie out of a hat and couldn't really decide. But I guess in closing, instead of final thoughts, because we pretty much touched on everything, and I thought it was an amazing review, but I don't want to have to pick it. But DJ, let's all pick each other the character who they think they would be. So,
oh man.
So DJ, who do you think? You guys come into collective. Who do you think that Shane would be? Who do we think?
Shane will be
Rafiki.
I would probably say Rafiki.
Philosophy. I mean,
exactly.
I'll take it. That's still a big.
You're a teacher.
Yeah, I mean that's true. Like that's what I want to do. That's my passion. So.
All right, now you guys have to pick
I'm
mine.
content with that.
You're Zazu, obviously.
You're Zazu. You're the control freak. Come on, like every time we go on a trip, you organize everything.
I'll own that. I don't know. I just like
but
you
you're
said.
Comic relief. You're a goofy guy. So.
I'm a fair share of organization. I'll admit it's the OCD.
Cody, you're totally Zazu, man. Zazu is
Zazu.
He can be funny. He can be funny. I'll give you that.
He can.
But he's also like super orderly and has like his things together. He's all about time and schedules and everything like that.
Zazu's not a bad character.
No, he's not. Actually,
he's very
I'll own
helpful
that.
and
I'll own that.
He's instrumental. That's all it is.
All right, Shane, you and I know Jeremiah best. Who is he?
Pumbaa. No, I'm playing.
Just because I fart a lot, man. This
is probably. Honestly, I see a lot of Simba in you.
I literally would probably say the same thing.
The same arc, because I'm your best friend, so
yeah.
I know you and I see you, not just seeing you like now, but I mean I see your journey, and as we can all relate to Simba in some way, I see you, all aspects of it at some point or another.
It's like I want the right things, but I just do horribly at it, getting there.
Right.
Yeah.
And I think for DJ, since I'm your best friend, dude. All jokes aside, I see you as a half of two, Timon and Mufasa. Now, the reason I say that is because you're so. When I think about all the trips and the times, and is he actually? I think as for like Timon, I mean, it's just the comic relief, dude. You've got it. It's natural.
The energy, the enthusiasm.
Exactly.
The drive.
You are the life to the party a lot of times, dude. And then Mufasa, like, you and I we literally talk on the phone every single day, dude. Whether it's comical, movies, video games, COVID-19, to traveling, to anything, dude. But in reality, you keep things set and straight, including myself. And, I mean, you're very wise. You read a lot of books. You listen to more podcasts than I do. I mean, I think you're a fine line to walk between the two. But stop blushing now.
Come on, you're going to make his cheeks explode,
dude,
man.
He's crying.
Now, in closing, I think we should all do our best lion roar.
We want people to watch the next video.
Yeah, exactly.
Come on, let's do it.
No.
No.
Okay, there you go. We're not getting roars. Is DJ's cracking up. Okay, good. All right. I thought it was a great podcast.
Yeah,
I don't know what you guys thought. Jeremiah, thanks for being here.
Yeah, man, thanks for having me as a guest. I really enjoyed it. Been looking forward to it for a long time. I really like the format. It's very casual, and I think it's a great format to like having good conversations.
Yeah. Next time maybe we'll pick a more like bigger nostalgic movie. DJ will be here, crack open some brewskis, and it'll probably be double or triple the amount of time. But we'll really have to like delve into it. We'll have like a watch party or something.
Yeah.
Maybe lower the rings for you.
Oh,
that'd be great.
That'd be so, dude.
All day.
The amount of conversation and things we could pull out of that.
That would be a 2-hour
endless.
podcast at least.
Are you a fan of Lord of the Rings, DJ?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
As you should.
Quick
Yes.
20-second perspective. DJ and I actually started the tradition in college. All 4 years, on Valentine's Day, we have like this singles group, or we were also snowed in 2 of the years, and we watched the extended edition of Lord of the Rings all day.
Oh,
so
wow.
trust me, we're not as big as probably you and your brothers, but
Right.
All right, let's wrap this up. DJ, I'm glad we could get this in, even though you're away in quarantine in Fredericksburg and working away. So
I'm glad.
This thumb is up.
His thumb is up if you can't see it. All right. If you guys have any other comments or anything we missed, we would love to hear what you have to say. Comment below. And any recommendations for future films. I mean, we have plenty, but we also love suggestions. Or if you want to be on one, let us know. But in closing, C Logic Show, or C Logic Podcast, signing off.
Till next
Roar!
Hey, young viral.